Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 226. Coming live from the Primetime Radio Studios in beautiful New Jersey, North and South Jersey. Yeah, as in South Paw, South Jersey, from the bunker and the fortress. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, formerly known as Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Big podcast tonight. Yeah, we got a special guest coming on. Her name is Danielle McCartan of WFAN, also known as Coach. If you ever listen to her on the weekends, I do. I immediately knew who she was when Nick's like, yeah, we got a guest from WFAN. And I was like, I like her. I like her a lot. She has well thought out opinions. She has, look, she's the fresh face, I think, of WFAN. There have been a lot of broadcasters that have retired from that station, Nick. By the way, how are you, Nick? I'm just going on and on. I felt like I was doing a monologue.
I'm doing all right. I'm not gonna lie to you, Sam. There's a lot of baby goo on me today. There was a TMI, I understand, but there was an incident right before the podcast, and this is life of newborns. Is that, you know, if you have time commitments like this podcast, I will not be late for the fans of the Let's Go Devils podcast. But that might mean that, you know, the baby, you know, spits up and you just got to move on. You change the shirt, you change your shorts, and you go podcast. And that's just kind of how it goes. No time for showers over here, Sam. That'll happen after the podcast.
Oh, well, that's okay. As long as you shut off that VPN, I'm all happy. You can have all the goo you want.
Yeah, the goo didn't get on the router, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say about goo. We'll move on to other things. You know, we got a big guest tonight. I'm really excited to talk to Danielle from WFAN. Coach, like you said. But before we get to her, I'm just real quick. Were you surprised that Jack Hughes wasn't the NHL EA Sports cover athlete? Saw some people were really, really surprised.
No, I'm not surprised for a variety of reasons. Number one, I think Kel McCarr is obviously deserving of it. Secondly, you know, I think by 2025, I think Jack Hughes is going to be on the cover. I think EA Sports, you know, they want to, you know, spread the talent, so to speak, because they know that there's going to be more Hughes sooner or later.
That's my theory. I don't know if you read my article, the article on pucksandpitchforks.com right now. I think they want to get all three brothers on one cover and have Jack, Quinn, and Luke. And I'm sorry, like, Luke looked great in a short time, but you can't put somebody in the cover of the video game. What is it, 7 games into his career, right? Luke has 7, or is it not even? It's 5 games in his career, right? It's 2 in the regular season, 3 in the playoffs.
I thought he had more than that.
He had 2 in the regular season, with the second game being the last game of the season where he scored the overtime winner. They didn't play in the Rangers series, right? And I think the first game he came into was game 3, right? Where they had that barrage of goals, the 8-goal run. Mm-hmm. Then you played the rest of the season. I think it's 5, right? Maybe, I don't know. I'll look it up in a minute, but I think that's their master plan, and they're probably going to shoot for that next year, knowing that Luke is such a big deal. But plans could change. They could put Bedard on it next year. They could put, you know, Fantilli if he makes the Blue Jackets. They could put, you know, a lot of teams. You know what surprised me, though, Sam?
What's that?
Are you surprised that the Devils have as many covers as the Rangers? And one of the Rangers covers is really Alexei Kovalev, because he's scoring on, I think it's Van Beesbrook. I'm not 100% sure if it's Van Beesbrook, but he's scoring on the Rangers goalie. But they're counting it as a Rangers cover. But the Devils, so there's Scott Stevens and Steve Yzerman were on the cover of NHL 96. I'm not even considering Scott Stevens being on the cover of NHL Hits 2002. Because if you count that, I didn't want to go back and look at the hits and all the other, like the ESPN hockey. I didn't, we only looked at the EA Sports product, the specific NHL product. But then you remember Brodeur was on the cover of NHL 14. So, and the Devils, the Rangers have never had a sole cover person. That's kind of wild, isn't it?
Shocking, actually, because, I'm actually kind of mystified by it, but maybe they've just sucked for the last 25 years.
We're not far off from that. And that's the thing is that, you see Cale Makar on the cover, and you think about like the biggest star, right? And how often was that person on the Rangers? Do the Rangers? I know Panarin got close to MVP, but he didn't win it. Have the Rangers had an MVP since the new millennium? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. It just came to my head. I'm sorry.
I would think the only one that would come close is maybe Henrik Lundqvist.
But I don't think a goalie is one in.
Yeah, I think he wasn't he a finalist or considered a finalist at one point?
I'm sure. I don't have track of that. I know he didn't win because a goalie hasn't won in a very long time. I think Jose Theodore is the last goalie to win, right? Like 2000.
2002?
Is that 2002? Was there... I got to look it up, Sam. I'm just gonna.
You need to stop asking me these weird questions on live air without even show prep. Jeez. Oh, my goodness.
I know. I'm sorry.
Although I don't really prep for shows anyway. I mean, usually my show prep is, Nick, we got to go on at 8:30. Are you there?
Let's see. Carey Price is the last one to win it. But
Price?
No Rangers. Okay. Why didn't I just New York Rangers? This is great podcasting, by the way. No, but let's see. So the last Rangers player to win the Hart Memorial Trophy, Mark Messier.
94?
Guess what year that is? 92.
92.
It's been 30 years since a Rangers player has been
I
MVP.
will say this, though. I think, and I'm controversial, so watch. I thought the 92 Rangers were better than the 94 Rangers. If it wasn't for that mini strike or lockout back before, because the Rangers had all that momentum, and then it just kind of like stopped. That work stoppage just stopped. It was a mini work stoppage, if people remember. But those are the days when we used to chant 1940, and then the Ranger fans would chant 19 never. Remember those days? I remember those days.
I don't remember those days. I was too young. I will say, before we get our guest on, I have to say the one before Messier is even more insane. Andy Bathgate. Do you know who that is?
He got his jersey retired not too long ago, maybe about 10 years ago.
Really?
From the late 60s? From the late 60s?
1959.
Wow.
They have 2 MVPs since the 1950s. And they've only had 4 ever. For being an original 6 team, the MVP has been given out since 1924. And the Rangers only have 4. Which is funny because I'm on the Wikipedia and Wayne Gretzky is on here saying that Wayne Gretzky has won it a record 9 times. And he's in a Rangers jersey. But he never came close to the MVP in a Rangers jersey. That's pandering. So that's what we call pandering in this business, Sam.
Yeah. Well. All right. Anyway.
Speaking of pandering.
Yeah. Our next guest, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, big fan of. She's on the weekends. When I thought that I was going to miss the schmooze, the Metropolitans, the Knickerbockers, this fine broadcaster, Danielle McCartan of WFAN, also known as Coach. You can find her on Twitter or X at Coach McCartan. Danielle, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
Well, this is pretty cool. I didn't know this was going to be live. Thanks, guys.
It's live.
Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah, it's live on Facebook. It's really a podcast, but we go live for the Facebook people and the Twitter people. So just say hi to the crew. Don't say anything terrible. It's fine. Danielle, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Excited to have you.
I have to do it.
I'm excited to kind of jump into your story and kind of like how you like. Can you quickly just tell us like how did you get to WFAN? Like, what was your journey like?
Well, the journey is not complete. That's for one thing. But I don't know. This is a very, very long story. But the misconception that I kind of just got handed a spot on WFAN is that's what it is, a misconception. Was doing my own thing for a really long time. There's all different pathways now to get to where you're going. And so, I didn't go to Syracuse Broadcasting School. I went to school to be a teacher, which September 1st, I'm going back to that life. And so, I had a podcast going on my own, parlayed it into a radio show, showed up at all events, started interviewing players, started a website, built my own YouTube channel. Like, it was like multifaceted, this whole thing. And then ultimately what got me in the door was there was an opening. It was vacant for the New York Jets beat reporter job. I was teaching, and my dad texted me. He was like, you should go for it. And then so, I DM'd two producers at the Fan. They gave me Mark Chernoff's email address, which I emailed him, and he had me in, and I didn't realize it was like an interview until it was over. And he was like, listen, don't drive down to Florham Park to make X amount of dollars a day. It wouldn't be worth quitting your teaching job, but I'm going to give you a tryout. I was like, oh, tryout? What? Like an actual tryout? And so, from there, kind of just expanded and grew from there. And now you find me on the weekends, whatever daytime, I'm the super utility around there now, I like to say.
And I love that story because it does really tell you exactly what you have to do and where you have to be. And sports, like obviously getting a sports job does have some luck to it, but it mostly has to do with like doing a lot of grunt work without knowing where it's going. And a lot of people have asked me to say like similar things, but like obviously different. But like I took over this website 7 years ago when it had 20,000 people going to it every month. And now it's, it is what it is. And I've gotten to produce Super Bowls because I worked in Tampa and I got to produce Stanley Cup final specials and stuff like that. And it's only because I said yes to everything and put myself in position to be where the people are and, kind of like just always raise my hand and never, you kind of have to, have the guts to do it. And I love that part of your story that you proved that like it's so cool to hear like you put in the work and it led to something like a dream, and like you said, the journey's not over, but to get here with starting with just a podcast and a YouTube show, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think, so, people always say live in the moment and I'm guilty of not doing that. I mean, Derek Jeter famously never lives in the moment, but when you put it that way, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, one of the things me and Sam are most proud of, and we try not to talk each other up too much, but I have a bad habit of doing it. But we are really proud that when the Devils, put a pause on the season in 2020 for the COVID-19 pandemic, we did a podcast every single week. And we had guests, and we talked to ex-Devils players, we talked to the broadcasters, we talked everything under the sun for 10 months. They didn't drop the puck for 10 months. And me and Sam did a show every single week. I saw you started in 2019. You had a similar journey where you had to talk New York sports on a very large platform. tell me what that was like. What was it like to get through the pandemic every day and in the doldrums when there was, there was there was no live sports to talk about?
Yeah, so I started filling in 2017. 2019 was when I got my first, weekly Saturday overnight into Sunday show. And yeah, I mean, so what happened during the pandemic was, unfortunately, ad revenue went down, and they were like, you know what, we're going to really heavily rely on our full-time people. So, we'll call you when we need you again. And that was kind of scary because you're thinking like, okay, are they gonna call me basically? And I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but are they really gonna call me when this is over with? And how long is this gonna go on for? So, I tried reinventing myself too. Like I was doing Twitter Spaces, which are free to do. I was doing like some podcast network on my own that I found, and it was free up to like 30 minutes a week. So I was doing that and connecting with new people, which it's still in touch with those people. I was doing a women in sports podcast that actually started in January of 2020. And, I did it through June, and unfortunately, I signed a contract and everything, but the money ran out. They couldn't pay me to do it. And I would have done it for free, but it was the agreement, so yeah, it was a tumultuous kind of time, but, so I guess, to do a show every week, I was trying my best, but, I remember going into the city and we got a special notice that, that to put in your glove compartment that you were a member of the press, that you were allowed to be out past the curfews and stuff, which is not, I still have that actually. But in March, the end of March, they were like, yeah, man, like there's no real sports going on. Like we started talking about WWE, like I was coming up with all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was tough, but eventually obviously we got the call back and here we are, and never want to really go through that again.
No, yeah, I think we can all agree that once in a lifetime was perfectly fine for all of us. So you have a Devils shirt on. We love to see that. We love to see you got the dress code. I appreciate that. Now you have a New York sports show. You talk once a week, like you said. You have limited time, and that real estate is very, very valuable. But you do talk about hockey, and that's something that we hear a lot of our listeners complain about, is that the national or the New York shows, the big shows, don't talk about hockey, but you talk about hockey. So what makes you so passionate about this sport in this town?
Anybody that says that, steer them to my show, please. Saturday nights, Sunday nights, sometimes Sunday days. But, there's that whole thing on the morning show. No one talks about hockey, boomer, or whatever they say over there in the morning show. But, like, I don't know, like if you go to different like Vegas, for example, like their shows are all about hockey. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's a major sport. It's one of our 4 major sports. And I know there's the Mets and the Yankees and the Giants and the Jets would get the most airtime, but like maybe now when the Yankees and Mets aren't doing too well and it's not quite football season, there's some times where you could talk hockey and people appreciate it, actually. Like it's not just like, yo, like I'm a fan of the Devils, yo, like no, like obviously I do an intelligent sports show. Obviously we talk a lot, in depth of all 3 different teams, and the playoffs last year were so fun. Like how could you ignore that all 3 teams were in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Like I don't understand that. Like how could you just roll into your Giants spiel when 3 of our 3 hockey teams were in the Stanley Cup playoffs? So it's a sport that's really underrated here, I guess, because it gets kind of buried under all the other sports and the other teams, unfortunately. But you go a lot of other places in this country, it's number 1. Hockey's king. So I guess I like the underdog story a little bit. I like rooting for the underdog, and I like rooting for the sport that doesn't get a lot of attention, and it should. And you should see the phone lines light up. More Rangers calls than anything. I don't know why, but you should see the phone lines light up when you start talking about hockey. So I plan to incorporate a little bit more and more of it every week, every month that I'm on in the wintertime.
So let's talk Devils hockey real quick, because we are the Let's Go Devils podcast. I've done a lot of, I try to look at like history, and I try to see like the Devils. It's such an outlier to go from such a bad team for so long to immediately one of the best in the league. Like it just never really happens that way. And so they've already been an outlier in that, but now they're trying to be an outlier in that you never see a team like they lost. Like this is like what happens to Stanley Cup winning teams, where you lose this amount of veteran leadership all at once. But it doesn't seem to, like, the Devils don't seem perturbed. The fans don't seem perturbed. It seems to be that everybody's kind of on the same page, that they have this elite young talent to kind of step in and fill in those gaps. But Danielle, let me ask you this. Are you worried at all about the Devils? Do you think there's a letdown possible there, or do you think that they are still going to be a top team?
I don't think there's going to be a letdown. I mean, I have complete confidence in Tom Fitzgerald, the general manager of the Devils, and they did a really great job scouting, like Akira Schmid, for example. So if they think that these guys, Hughes, the Heischers, the Bratts, and the Myers, if they think that these guys can step up and take on a leadership role, at a fraction of the cost of what some of these other guys, they were going to be due to pay them. I just totally believe in what they're doing and what they've built. I mean, so if they believe in it, then I can get behind this leadership group and this front office and this coach, and I could say, you know what, I believe in it too. Yeah.
I mean, Fitzgerald, it's hard to deny Fitzgerald exactly what he's been. He's been maybe the best GM, at least over the last year or two. So it's hard to not trust that. Now, you had 3 playoff teams, and this is the rarity, is that you had 3 playoff teams in the New York metro area in one sport. Just ask the Mets and the Yankees how rare that is. Sorry, I had to just throw that one in there. But next year, I mean, they both have a different set of expectations, but I think they all expect to be really competitive. Where would you rank the Devils, Rangers, and hockey in the 2023-24 season?
I think in terms of odds wise, if you were to tell me, ask me, are the Devils going to make the playoffs? Absolutely yes. Are the Rangers going to make the playoffs? I would also say yes. The only one I would have a question about would be the Islanders. I mean, I think, the coach is a question mark for me for them. Their roster's like salary capped out. Matt Barzal was very disappointing for them. So I think Devils, Rangers, I would say yes, they would both get in for next year. The Devils have the 3rd best odds to win the Stanley Cup, like plus 1,100. Like when we're done, I'm gonna go put a bet on the Devils to win the Stanley Cup. Like honestly, Avalanche are 1, Hurricanes are 2, Devils are 3. And if anybody's curious, the Rangers are 12th best and the Islanders are 18th best. So not that great for the Islanders, So let's see what the new coach can do for the Rangers too, with the young talent. That's why he was brought in, right, to get the Panarins going, the Kakos going, and we'll see. But as far as where the Devils sit, I'm very, very happy, very optimistic on where they're sitting now. And actually, I really am going to make a bet on them as soon as we're done.
I mean, listen, it is kind of funny because I wrote an article like around this time last year. No, actually, it was like a month before this last year, where he said, make a bet on the Devils because what do you have to lose? They were 100-1 to win the Stanley Cup before the offseason last year, and you saw where they ended up. So it's funny that now they're the 3rd. It's wild that this turnaround happened. Now you talk about putting a bet in on them to win it all. If you had to rank the Jets, the Giants, the Yankees, the Mets, the Knicks, the Nets, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Devils, all those teams, heck, you could throw the Red Bulls and New York FC in there if you want to. Who do you think is closest to a championship, and why is it the Devils?
Well, of all the teams, the wonderful professional teams around here that you mentioned, you forgot the New York Liberty, and they are going to win the championship this year. That is
Aces
the real
look real good,
team.
though. I know the Liberty beat them the other day, but the Aces look good.
Yeah, the Liberty crushed him the other day, and twice so far this season. So, yeah, you're right. But I think I think it's the New York Liberty, obviously. But of the teams that you mentioned, chronologically, the Jets season ends before the Devils season would. So my vote is going for the New York Jets, as long as they can figure out that offensive line. They are absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball. So New York Jets, number 1, just because the Super Bowl is in February.
That's fair. So you're not worried at all about like the Rodgers effect and like his attitude? You think he's a new man?
Oh my God. He was at the Taylor Swift concert. He was at Joe Jonas's birthday the other night. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's living the life, man. He's motivated. I never had any single concern about him and everything everybody's saying about him. Not a single concern. No way. As long as that offensive line can keep him upright. I also have bets on the Jets to win the Super Bowl this year, actually.
Do you talk about betting at all on the show? Is that allowed?
Yeah, for sure, it's allowed. I do. I won't do like a whole segment on it because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't take this betting anymore," But like in a normal conversation like we just had, like the odds to win and all that stuff, like I will definitely work that in for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. It's funny because you're like this live show. You're talking about the phone lines lighting up, and after you said that, our comment section is on fire. So
No way.
I'm on the our Facebook and our YouTube comment section is going a little wild right now.
I can't see
Stephen
it.
Engel. It's the YouTube one is it's usually I make Sam kind of control it, but it's not a lot of questions. It's a lot of very comments. Stephen Engel says the Giants are trash. Ted says that this is the Jets' year. And somebody thinks that there's a curse that Namath being alive, the Jets aren't going to win while he's alive. I don't. Is that a curse? Is that a real curse, Danielle?
No.
I don't know. People are making up curses, Sam.
I'm reading all these comments, and so someone asked on the the Facebook Live, are you a New York Rangers fan?
So here's the thing. I do a sports radio show on New York Sports Radio. Mm. So I don't my fandom, and I was saying this before on Twitter, I tweeted it to somebody, my fandom is unbiased sports talk radio in New York City. That's what I am. Because here's the thing. Here's the real reason why. People turn me on the radio and they're like, she's a girl. Strike one. She definitely doesn't know what she's talking about. And then I come out there and I say, hey, I'm an X fan. And then they're like, well, she doesn't know anything about my team. Strike two. So you know what I mean? Like, there's other hosts that can get away with declaring I like this team. I feel like because of my situation, I can't. So, I need to be as unbiased as possible. I've been to Rangers games. I've been to Devils games. I've been to every single game except actually an Islanders game. It's just too far away.
How far?
But, yeah, it's way out of the way from where I am in Jersey. So, to that person, I'm an unbiased sports talk radio host is what I am.
And you do a very good job of it because I've listened to you talk about Daniel Jones, some of the and there used to be a running joke that WFAN, for 20 years never talked about hockey. The only time they ever really talked about hockey was June 11th, 2003. Or no, June 10th, 2003, where it was from end to end, where they just couldn't believe that the Devils won 3 Stanley Cups. And I was just listening from 6 a.m. to like 12 a.m. And then, and then it went back to, baseball. And I remember when the Yankees lost to the Florida Marlins in the World Series. The next day, Mike Francesa was talking about the World Series lineup in 2004, what it was going to be like the day after the Yankees lost. Like, but it's very refreshing. And I really mean that. On the weekends, that when I'm listening, I'm like, wow, this is great. This is like step in the right direction, that there are 3 teams in this area, and they need the attention, especially what happened during the playoffs when the Devils played the Rangers. I mean, that's 7 games. I mean, that felt like an eternity, that whole series.
Yeah. I've actually had on my show, and I'm sure you guys have had, Ken Danico. He's been great. He's been a great person. He's come on with me. Anytime I say, hey, you want to come on? He's like, I'm there, Danielle, whatever you need me. I had on Alex Wood. I've had on, set up through Devils PR. He's been a guest on my show. You could just Google it, like McCartan, Alex Wood, or you can Google like McCartan and John Marino. I had this last season right before Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I mean, I hate the narrative that like the fan doesn't talk hockey, because I do, you know what I mean? Don't lump me in with everybody else. Like, I've had players on my show. So, yeah.
And you got to tune in. You might not be able to reveal your fandom, but we will reveal that we were both Danielle McCartan fans, and we're big fans of the coach on Saturdays and Sunday nights. Danielle, what's your lineup looking like this weekend?
Yeah, you know what? I always do this. His name is Miles Wood. I think Alex Wood, the pitcher.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, but
that.
everybody knew what you meant.
I know, but then now you're gonna get the comments that are like, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. She called him Alex. Meanwhile, I interviewed him, and he commented after through Devil's PR. They emailed me back, and they were like, he was very impressed. Like, I obviously know his name, but yeah. So this weekend, Saturday, I don't even know the dates here. This coming Saturday, it's 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., and then it's Sunday after the Yankee game until 9 p.m.
Very good. Yeah. So, and is there like a podcast afterwards?
Yeah. So what they do is they podcast. I have the producer podcast out the opening monologue before the calls start. So it's just the main topic of the night, which has been baseball, honestly. I'm sure it'll be the Yankees again. So, yeah. So if you just type in like Danielle McCartan, WFAN, you'll find a lot of different stuff, interviews that I've done and everything else.
And we will share that out also on the Pucks and Pitchforks Twitter page, and also the Let's Go Devils podcast Twitter page and Facebook page. So follow us, follow Danielle, follow Let's Go Devils podcast, and you'll definitely see a lot of great content. And when it's hockey season, we're gonna share it again. We're gonna share it again because we need more people from New York City, male, female, and anything in between, to talk about hockey. We just want hockey talk. We want hockey talk from intelligent people. Danielle, you're one of the best in the business. We really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. And we will definitely have you on again soon.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm happy to do it. This is great, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And by the way, if you're ever near the Prudential Center, you're more than welcome to American Whiskey outside Prudential Center, where we do our pregame and postgame.
We went there. We actually went there. We went to one of the Rangers games, and we were outside and
oh yeah, we're on the
Yeah.
big stage. We're on the big stage. If you remember,
I saw you guys actually.
Yeah,
that's us.
That's us. Yeah, the big stage.
Well,
It was an ingenious idea of the owner of American Whiskey. He was just like, oh, we'll build you, no problem. We'll build you a 10-foot by 10-foot stage. And he did it in like an hour before game one. Like, it was
awesome.
Crazy. It was crazy. But and we've got a lot of great
Sounds
comments from Steve Engel says, you rock, and Shane Van Sickle. Actually, before we let you go, sorry, I have to get this in, but I wanted to ask you, which sport is your most favorite to cover on your show?
I would say probably baseball. A lot of people don't know that I actually played baseball. And then when I was a freshman in high school, they made me switch to softball. I pitched baseball. I played shortstop, first base. And then as a freshman, they were like, you can't play baseball. You have to switch. So from that day on, like day one of tryouts as a freshman, I made the varsity team, starting shortstop. So because I have two different, and I've coached. I coach softball too currently. So I've got a lot of different perspectives on the game of baseball. So I think that would, and I also get to go to Yankee Stadium and Citi Field and talk to the players. So that's really cool too. So of them all, I would say baseball for sure.
Okay. Well,
I hate to let you go on this, but it sounds like you're kind of after this Yankees and Mets season, to say that your favorite is still baseball, I have to question just the mindset. Oh, that's like we have plenty of writers and they talk Yankees and Mets baseball. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm out. Like, I've done a lot of Devils losing hockey, but losing baseball for 162 games, that's just scary.
Yeah,
but thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle.
Note.
We'll see you at American Whiskey. We'll make the Rangers. All right. Thanks. That is Danielle McCartan of WFAN, also known as Coach. You can find her on Twitter or X at Coach McCartan. And Nick, sorry to I kind of ruined your clothes there, but we got it. We have to invite every guest at American Whiskey,
so
though.
Good. You didn't text me. You usually text me. You know I'm never going to remember unless you text me. You did?
I did. Oh, man. Yeah, well, I sort of texted you. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She saw us there. She saw us there.
No, that's dope. I love that. And listen, it's it's always a memorable experience, getting to talk to Chico at American Whiskey, getting to talk to, we talked to Ken Danico. She brought up Danico, and you and me got to talk to Ken Danico outside of Amalie Arena in Tampa, and that was
my goodness.
that was one of the coolest things. Like, that was one, and you get the big Devils crowds coming around and looking, watching Danico talk, and it was like, it was so random, right? We just had like a tent. Did we have a tent? Or did we
Thunder Alley, no less. We had a tent, and then
we did have a tent.
No, we did have, but without sandbags. So we learned that lesson. Remember, we had to tie it down.
That's right.
What the listeners don't know, it's all about improvising, even on the big stage. Like, people didn't know that my video switcher crashed when Chico was on, and then Shorts guy's like, "We'll just fake it." Let's just fake it like we know what we're doing.
Honestly, like, that's a lot. Like, Sam, I've covered broadcast news on some of the biggest stages that you can, right? Super Bowls, Stanley Cups, World Series, and gigantic news events. National news. Coverage being taken by CBS News Live, and Sam, if something fails, you have to just go with it. I'm going to tell I do want to thank Danielle. That was amazing to talk. I've been listening to WFAN my whole life. To have somebody on from WFAN, and Danielle, like, behind the scenes, she's always interacted with the podcast and the blog.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the people who are great at what they do, and they still, they talk to the fans. Like, that's so huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
But
and keeping that unbiased view. Again, you have to be a professional to do that. I remember going into Madison Square Garden for the 2014 Stanley Cup Finals when the Rangers and Kings were in it. And, again, there is a way of doing it. It almost seems like impossible for me to do it, but I did it. I mean, I did have Rangers suck confetti in my pocket, but I didn't throw it anywhere. But, just those little things. If she can do that, you have to be the best in the business to do that. It's very, very difficult to just kind of be objective. And some of the things that she spoke about Daniel Jones, one in particular, and about contracts and all that kind of good stuff, she did a remarkable job because her views are very original. They're not like the same stuff you read in the online or in the papers or whatever. So she has her own opinions, and they're very, very well thought out. That's why I enjoy being stuck in traffic going to Citi Field, and I'm listening to Danielle on the weekends. It's very good.
You're still going to Citi Field this season?
I haven't gone to Citi Field this season. Did I go to Citi Field this season? I don't remember. No, I don't think so.
I got to tell you, I would go to, like, listen, if I live near Philly. I've been to a Phillies game this year just because I like going to baseball games. But I can't – without this – the Devils are a little different. Like, the Devils are, like, by far my favorite team. Like, the Yankees are second, but the Devils are by far my favorite team. So I'll go to games. Like, when I lived in Florida, I went to every Tampa game that I could. And I went to every Florida game that I could, the Panthers game. And then I would try to come up at least once a year for either a game in Pittsburgh, because my wife is a Penguins fan, or a game in New Jersey. So I was really excited to move back, right? To move back to New Jersey and to be within striking distance of Devils games. It's still, like, I thought it would be easier, Sam. I'm not going to lie. I thought there would be a much easier route from Philly to Newark. I don't know, like, who I need to call to be like, why does the train take 3.5 hours to get from, South Jersey to New York? Like, it should not take that long to get to a Devils game. 3.5 hours, like, I need some of that Joshua Harris money to fix public transportation in New Jersey.
I will get you a helicopter right now from courtesy of Joshua Harris. I'll take you to the helipad on top of the Prudential Center. You go down the elevator, you walk in Edison Place, and then you're at the big stage.
Let's go.
At American Whiskey.
Yeah. Listen, and I'm really excited about this season, Sam, because there's a lot of, and you've noticed it. There's a lot of excitement because this team is good again, and that is going to lead to a lot of fun events. Like, there's been people who have approached us to do events, like multiple people at multiple places, and we're working out where we're going to go and what we're there's never been a time, Sam, where we've had to prioritize, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've always been kind of yes men, and that's the story. That is the story that I try to tell people when they're like, how do I get involved in sports? And I'm not involved in sports like Danielle or like a lot of people. I am sports adjacent, as Peter Rosenberg, another New York radio legend, would say. I am adjacent to sports. This is my second job, like the whole Pucks and Pitchforks and the State of the Fan address, and just like Danielle, she's a teacher by day. Like, I am a corporate communicator by day and a podcast host / blogger by night. And it's because you get this passion for it, right? And I think I'm pretty good at it. Other people have other opinions of that, but that's fine. I calculated, Sam. I've written 5,000 articles for pucksandpitchforks.com.
Holy crap! Really?
Wait, no, I think that's wrong. I think I've written and edited 5,000 articles. I've written.
Oh, I mean, still, like me producing, I've done over 2,000 podcasts, in the last 6-7 years or something like that. Some of them I'm on, some of them not. Most of them I'm on.
Now I'm curious. How many? All right. So I've written 2,000 articles and edited, including my written, about 5,000. So, it's a journey. I've done a lot of work for a little bit of money to where I have it now, Sam, where I make, I don't make beer money anymore. I make bill money. That's what I call it.
Oh, is that what they call? Well,
I hope from beer money to bill money.
I hope one day we make. I hope one day we make FU money. That's when we know we made
I'm not paying my mortgage with what I make, but I'm paying. I make a decent amount of money with what I do, but it's not because you get to a point where I'm getting, where you'll work less and make more because you've built the audience, people know what to expect from me, right? And
I got to read this comment from Stephen Engel. He says, instead of the Jeffersons, it's the Benjamins that you're making.
It's not like, Sam, there's been some checks for $60. I'm not going to tell you that I haven't gotten some checks that were in the double digits.
I remember getting 98 cents. That was a big deal for me.
Man, I was working one of those multi-level marketing jobs, and I put in a 60-hour. Yeah, I put in listen. It was a fine job for a while, but then I got a $90 check after a 60-hour work week.
Were you selling knives?
No, I wasn't selling knives. I was selling windows and siding and roofing.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
But it was one of those, you get 10 people on your team and you get 60 leads and we give you an office, and then that office never really comes. And then, the guy who does 10 leads but is cool with the boss gets the office, but then they fail. And it's very, it is what it is, but whatever. It was a good job to gain experience and confidence in a lot of departments that probably helped me today. And, now, I look at, and it's funny. Here's the funny thing. Because a lot of people poo-poo the fact that I'm a blogger or whatever the heck you want to call me. But I've done a lot of cool stuff in jobs. And people ask me about the blog about as much as the cool stuff. Just because it looks so different on a resume. It's like, wait, you built this blog from 20,000 to 600,000, monthly views, and you grew a Twitter account or whatever the heck it is, X going to give it to you account, and from this to that, and you worked on you learned SEO, you learned, and like that's the thing is that like that's why Sam, that's why I hire everybody. I will hire every single person that applies for pucksandpitchforks.com as long as you're qualified. There's like certain like fan-sided thresholds you have to meet, and I can't do anything about that. But if you come across my desk as a fan-sided, as a Pucks and Pitchforks applicant, I will give you a chance. You can have no writing experience. I've had people with no writing experience and people with 2 decades of writing experience. Dan Rice is currently on my team. He's our beat writer for puckspitchforks.com. And the reason why he came to us was because we built those relationships and we treat people right. And, you know, he saw that, like, we gave people chances and he wanted to kind of be a part of that team. And I've had, look at where Vinny is now. He started as just a guy who wrote for me.
It was a guy in Chicago.
Yeah.
And he's also the host of Game Day Live as well.
Which is, that's fabulous.
Which coming back in October.
He's got his own show on the Barroom Network, or Bar Down Network. Help me, I'm sorry, I'm failing right here. Is it Bar Down Network?
I think it's Bar Down.
Yeah. The Bar Down Network. So, he's killing it now. And because this is my philosophy. I got lucky that I found the right opportunity and it allowed me to do a lot of cool things. And doing those cool things give you the confidence to apply for more cool things. There's so many people who won't even get that first chance. And I don't want to ever be the guy to say no to that first chance, right? I don't ever want to be the person to be like, you don't know the next Joe Buck. Like maybe the next Joe Buck needs a little confidence in college by applying to a little blog and they take them and you don't know where it's going to go from there. And I'm never going to be the guy that says no to that, right? If you're a terrible writer, I will do everything I can to teach you how to be a better one. If you don't know jack squat about SEO and you want to know, I will teach you what I know. If you want to be an editor, I'll teach you what I know about editing. If you want to get into sports, I know enough sports people to get you. That's the thing is that I feel like, and just going back to like Danielle, like she's been so open and easy to talk to for every fan, and like even the terrible ones. Like I do not envy being a woman in sports talk or sports editing, sports writing, like because just the comments are gross and stupid and dumb, and she literally can't say that she likes the team, Sam. Like, that's insane. But she comes back every week. She's just as passionate as she was the week before. She's killing the game. And she'll talk to everybody. She will talk to you, and she will share her knowledge. And there's enough people in this sports world who are looking at the next generation and are looking to share what they know and help those next people, that it kind of gives you hope about this industry. I'm not saying like it's everybody, because it's not. There's a lot of egos in sports journalism, but excuse me, I just I'm off the rails, Sam. You let me go off the rails, and like the train is now driving onto the street, and just like I've gone through a couple of houses. I'm so off the rails right now. I don't even know. How do we get back?
Here,
I need GPS.
All right, here, let me get you back. So on Friday, I'm heading to Vancouver, okay? And there's some, summertime rumors about Quinn Hughes going to the Devils. But can you imagine, I'm just saying imagine, that here I am going to Vancouver on Friday, and I land, and a big trade goes down. I'm just imagining right now. I'm trying to pull you off, get you back on track about Devils hockey. Can you imagine if that happened?
Sam?
Yeah.
Call me, like, what's the guy who's like the bad luck guy? Or like the guy you should fade? Because I literally wrote like 2 months ago, the Quinn Hughes dream is dead. I wrote it. Quinn Hughes' dream is dead. And I refused. I'm not, Sam. I'm not ready.
Well, I saw some clickbait. I'll just say it that way. I saw some clickbait. I think I may have sent you one. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I thought to myself, I was like, I land in Vancouver on Friday. Can you imagine?
Imagine if he's on like the seat next to you on the way back.
Can you imagine? Are you kidding me?
You better just go live on the plane. Pay for the Wi-Fi, Sam.
You know what? I got to bring my equipment with me while I'm out at sea. I got to be like podcasting and listening to WFAN on the Odyssey app on the weekends.
Are you going on like one of those Alaskan cruises?
Disney. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, is it in Alaska?
Yeah, it's like it starts from Vancouver. You go, to Alaska. I'll watch the glaciers fall apart.
Sam.
What's that?
I think I've revealed here that I used to do a lot of Make-A-Wish. I've been trying to get back into it, but New Jersey hasn't been doing it just because of the pandemic and stuff. But I had a lot of kids go to do the Disney cruise in Alaska. It's the same cruise. Like it's you got to go for the best.
Let me tell you something. I am going to devour myself in 4 pounds of Alaskan snow crabs.
Listen,
I'm going to eat. I'm going to be 50 pounds heavier when I come back, and I'm going to do a documentation on social media if there is internet available, whether I'm in Canada or Alaska. You will see the food I'll be devouring.
It sounds good. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see it. I'm hungry already.
Oh yeah, I'm starving right now.
I'm not starving. I had a barbacoa beef burrito from the place down the street. So now I got to reveal what it is because we need those sponsorship dollars. If you want us to reveal, or you got to at least invite us to do a live podcast at your facility for us to reveal. La reveal.
Wait, here in the bunker?
No, I'm saying like.
Oh,
anyway.
Sorry. No, I'm going off.
The train is turned over. We're on our tops now.
Yeah.
I think it's time to say goodbye, Sam.
Yeah.
This is my fault. I had the perfect close, and then.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's Steve's fault. It's Steve's fault.
Oh.
I'm just kidding, Steve. We love you, Steve.
But I will tell you though, WFAN. I mean, I've been listening to WFAN since like day one.
What was it, 1989 or something?
Something like that, and
it was early.
Yeah, and a little bit of a history note as well. One of the people behind the scenes who's no longer with us, passed away in 2020, was there at WFAN from the beginning as well as a broadcast engineer. But yeah, it's grown. I could do my Joe Bedingo impressions and Mike Francesa impressions and Chris the Mad Dog Russo back in the day. You know who does a Mad Dog Russo impression? Bill Clement. Spot on. So he and I were joking on the phone one time. I was talking to him, and he was doing Mad Dog Russo, and I was like, I never said that. I never fell asleep on a live air. Back after this. Anyway.
Well, there goes our chance of getting Mike Francesa on here.
We'll get him.
Yeah, like he would ever talk hockey. Get out of here.
I don't charge for autographs, okay?
He charges for podcast appearances. I guarantee that.
I'm sure he does. But one of these days we got to invite Danielle down to the big stage.
Absolutely.
You got to make that happen, Nick.
You know what, Sam? I have a feeling that there's gonna be you're gonna see Danielle again, and it's probably gonna be at an event. And it's gonna be great.
Yeah. One of these days I'm gonna call in the WFAN. Sam from Jersey.
Huh. Well, I thought about that. I interact with them all the time, and we talked to a couple people on WFAN. I'll probably, once we get the hockey season, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll become one of those guys who, I not grew up, but I spent a lot of years listening to 97, I want to say 5, but it might be 3. I think it's 5, 97.5, the Fan over here in Philly. Tony Bruno and I think his name's Mike Missinelli. They were great radio hosts, but if you were listening at like 8:00 at night, you could sometimes get right into the phone lines, especially if there wasn't like anything crazy going on. You'd have like long conversations. So I was like, oh. So I remember that was the first thing. I was like, I got on the radio, and you could tell when the radio host liked you because they kick a lot of people off. And if he likes what you're saying, he just lets you talk, and he'll go back and forth. He'll ask you a question, and I love that. Like Chico does that to us.
I used to do prank calls in WFAN actually, especially Mets Extra after the game. It was Gary Cohen and Howie Rose. I used to ask stupid questions from Shea Stadium parking lot. I have some of the recordings. It's pretty funny.
Sam, why are you making my life harder? I need to get guests. Like,
I'm just kidding around. I'm kidding around. That was years ago. That was 25 years ago. I love WFAN. Anyway.
But I got a couple plugs. Are we ready for plugs?
Let's plug away.
So Trey Matthews is going to have an article in the morning on Kevin Ball. Got some quotes from him. Excited to read that and edit that. So that'll be up tomorrow morning. We talked about Jack Hughes not being on the NHL cover. I go in depth of why I think that was the right move. I don't think this is the time for Jack Hughes to be on the cover. Dan Rice spoke with Bruce Driver, Sam. Bruce Driver, who I probably almost got you in trouble because I had him pretty low on my top 50 Devils of all time. But I rectified it, Sam. I fixed it after doing, you write some of these and you do some research. Not to reveal my mistake, but I did have him in the 40s. I was like, oof, this is
Bruce Driver?
It was a mistake on my part. I'm sorry. I had him behind some like Bill Guerin. I was like, what am I doing? Like I gotta fix
Bruce
this.
Driver was back in the day. And remember, and Bruce, if you're watching or listening, Nick wasn't born. He was an infant when you. Now I just made Bruce feel old, but Bruce was like what Siegenthaler or maybe John Marino, maybe more of Siegenthaler, just steady.
He's just like, I mean, we just did
calm,
a story.
John
just wrote a story about 5 players, basically 5 players playing in the wrong era, like 5 players that would dominate today. And we didn't want to talk about like Stevens or Niedermeyer or Brodeur because like they're Hall of Famers, like they would dominate in any era. Like, we want to like think outside the box. And Bruce Driver, I was like, he has to be on there. Like we were talking about the 5 that were going to be on there. I was like, Bruce Driver would be really good today, and his footwork, his offensive capabilities just wasn't what teams needed, especially the Devils. Devils didn't need that back then. Think about like what Scott Niedermeyer would look like today. But then Bruce Driver was I'm trying to think of like a comparison. Like he was like he wasn't like production wise Josh Manson. He had a completely different body style than Josh Manson. I'm trying to think of like he would be like a 40 to 50 to 60 point guy now.
Yeah.
And like peaking at 60 maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but like 40 or 50, every year and just really consistent.
He was very respectable when he played and and he was a leader too. He was
he was
at one
captain.
point the captain. Yep.
Sorry, I definitely just stole your mojo on that one.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
I didn't know. I didn't realize you were. Coming out of my mouth.
I wrecked your clothes when you were closing out Danielle. I'm like, oh yeah. By the way, meet us at American Whiskey.
You still didn't text me that. I'm just saying it. You texted me. I still, if you did send it to me, I never got it.
Oh no, I didn't text you about that, but it was just
because I was closing, and I was like, oh, he never texted me about this. And I was like, I can't do it now; it's awkward. And then you did it for me. I was like,
well, you know what? In my mind, you didn't read the first text, so if I sent you the second text, you wouldn't have read it anyway. So.
That's fair. Well, I have my watch on, and I usually get like a buzz when I get a text. I don't know what happened. It just wasn't meant to be. Sam.
How about I let you close right now?
Okay.
Why don't you close the podcast? I'll play the music.
And then I got 5 prospects to watch in 2023, 24. That's a fun one. And I'm not talking about Luke Hughes. Like, I want to, like, go deeper. Like, who are those prospects that you should watch, like, overseas hockey or watch big Utica for, things like that. Marcy Rubin can Dougie Hamilton repeat last season's production? That was a really in-depth article on kind of Dougie Hamilton and his impact and why, can he repeat it? Was last year an outlier, or is that what he's going to do completely? Jersey Joe wrote about Akira Schmid. I wrote about 5 under the radar goalie trade options. I'm done talking about goalies. I'm done talking about goalies and Quinn Hughes. No more for the rest of the offseason, Sam. I don't want to talk about it again. That's it. Catch me next week. Wednesday, I'm hoping, I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver, Sam, but I want to do something really cool next week. So hopefully that comes to fruition.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about scheduling on that.
I don't love that.
Well, anyway. Alrighty. Till next time, let's go Devils.